Thank you.
Thank you so much again for being with us and for the film. I want to start by recalling a comment you made in your introduction that I found really fascinating in relation to the film. This relationship between poetics and politics, and I think the sort of political context and historical basis for the story that you're telling with this film is quite specific and quite characterized by, in your telling, by anger in the way that this political situation has been experienced. And yet the sort of, if you want to call it the poetics of the film, there's the operating in a register that at first glance might look serene or sort of placid on the surface, but that really conceals or doesn't conceal all of the anger that is invoked by the political reality that you're commenting on. Could you just speak about that relationship that you invoked in your introduction and how you applied it to this process?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, maybe it's one of the keys of the film, this relation, because in one hand, I'm a filmmaker, I'm not a journalist, I'm not a person from the academy or from the, like, writing about our history, but I was born in the 76. I like to know about the story of my own country and others, because I'm very curious about what is happening in the world. So my generation was the first generation in democracy. And I remember years later talking with my parents and asking them what's supposed to them this change of regime from Frankism, 40 years, quite a long dictatorship, and the arrival of the democracy in the 76. So my generation asked a lot about that moment. And I think that we have enough distance to be like critical, but in a positive way, to ask some questions that maybe our parents didn't manage to do. So this is in one hand. The desire to think about where we come from, the story of our country, not only about Spain. This case is located in Spain, but it happened in a lot of places. For example, in Argentina, in Chile, in Uruguay. I have a very close connection with Latin America because I was living there, and of course the language we share. So this is one of my starting points. But on the other hand, as I said before, I'm making films, and I have a very close connection with the artistic disciplines, the different ones, literature, cinema, music. And I know that when you are working from there, from the art field, you don't work from here. You can't work from here all the time. You need to be open to some emotions, sensations, and you need to take care of the language, of the form, the tools you can use as a director. And there, in that field, the tools are the rhythm, for example, the light, the nature, the landscape, the editing, the distance between the actress and the camera, some relations, some intuitions. And with all those elements, you try, in my case I try, to propose some ideas, some images, some suggestions. because I'm not trying to make like the portrait of the moment or the portrait of the situation of this woman, but I try to share something more emotional. So, yeah, with these two hands, I try to do my best. So, yeah.
And with regard to this particular story of these characters who are embroiled in this political reality in a very particular way, how or at what point in the process of developing the film, developing the narrative, did you devise this sort of framing epistolary narration structure with the chapters and the second person address in the voiceover? How did that emerge?
Yeah. Writing the script, in a moment appeared the idea of the letters. Nowadays, they are not so common, the letters, but in the cinema history and in the cinema of literature, and I love the letters. I love to read letters from the old times. So it appears in one of the versions of the script. We were 3 persons writing the script. I write the script with Andrea Queralt, who is our French producer, and with Isa Campo, who is one of our producers from Spain, from Barcelona. So we write together, and I remember it appears there in one of the versions, and we were watching some films, some letter films, like for example, Chantal Ackerman's News from Home, filmed here in New York, and it's a film where a mother and a daughter talk about life, quite in a way, not so far from our film, in another, with other style. But, and I remember later working with the editor of our film. The editor is Ana Paz. She's from Barcelona. She works with big Spanish directors as Carla Simón, very well known in the last years in Spain. She won the Golden Bear of Berlinale 2-3 years ago, for example. So I have the chance to work with Anna. And for example, the chapters appear there in the editing room. We were thinking a lot about the structure, because I feel a very close connection between making films and architecture because of the structures. You need to take care of the bridges from some part to another. You can maybe offer like a secret entrance from one part to another. And we worked for months in Barcelona, and we decided finally to use the chapters because I like a lot how some other artistic disciplines as literature use them. We are very used to reading chapters in the literature history. It's not so common now in the films, in the feature films, but they are using it again in the series, no? But I remember also talking with Ana about some other films and directors, as Laura Citarella, who is an Argentinian director. She presented like 2 years ago a film in Venice, Trenkelauken. And she is part of a group of filmmakers from Argentina. They have a production company named El Pampero Films. And another name of that group is Mariano Ginás, who made that gigantic film named La Flor, 8 hours, and a film that becomes another film, that becomes another film, that becomes another film during 8 hours, with chapters. And for example, we invite Bolaño to our film, because sometimes you need to invoke some ghosts, friends. And I like a lot how Bolaño used chapters, and I like a lot how Bolaño mixed geographies and characters. And I like a lot how Bolaño can talk about a crime in Mexico, but after in the next page you are in Montevideo, and in the next page you are in Barcelona, and the character in the novel is easiest, I think so. You turn the page and you are in another space. In cinema, you need to travel with all your crew and in a bus. It wasn't so easy to travel from Madrid to San Sebastian to Portugal. But that's why, as you can see, I like this type of mixing, combining, and yeah.
I think I'm glad you mentioned geography, because I think the spatial logic or the geographical organization of the film is quite important. This movement from city to city and then finally to Portugal, to this river. And of course, this is sort of amplified by the use of maps and the graphic depictions of these spaces and of other spaces, and of floor plans and architectural diagrams. How was this integral to the writing process, this sort of sense of geography and sense of how space was going to be represented?
Yeah, it was. The geography was like very important from the beginning, and the use of some very concrete elements as a maps. A map, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to a journey, to an adventure, always. For example, in Jules Verne novels, or in my remembering when I was a child and I discovered the maps, I could be there for hours, like imagining, like how to go from here, this country, names of the country you didn't know that are like amazing or that are mysterious for you. So the maps, they were there from the beginning. And for example, we use also a lot of hands, and I like the relation between hands and maps, because it happens something very curious with the hands, that if you put this part of your hand in front of some persons, they can tell you something about your past and the future, reading the lines. It's like a map. It's the first map and the closest map we have, this part of our hands, no? So, yeah, at that point of the process, at the beginning, thinking about maps and the movements, first in Spain and after in Portugal, I remember me thinking about Vera, and Vera searching, and Vera looking to maps, and Vera asking about Egoz. Where is Egoz? So that's why are in the film as an invitation to a journey. No? We have that sequence with the green laser. So we travel in very different ways, because talking now in terms of language, we use this movement with the camera and we go with the green light. But after we use another way of traveling in cinema, who is using a zoom into a postcard of San Sebastian. Postcards also, as a way of traveling, as a way of being in two places at the same time. When you receive a postcard, for example, you read, "Hi, family, I'm here in New York. Yesterday I feel the earthquake." So you can, when you are writing, you are here and there, and when they receive, it's the same. I love a lot this type of tricks, of magic, of reality, of art, of the cinema gives us a lot of possibilities of use them, no? So yeah, and I can be all the night talking about maps. Tomorrow, one of my plans is to go to a shop here, a shop, a map shop. I was looking some days ago, and I know that it's not so far from here, and I want to take a look to some old maps of New York there, because I like them a lot.
In a sense, the film is sort of maps, in a different sense, it maps its allusions, its references. It's sort of a constellation of, you mentioned Chantal Akerman's film, and I think that there's an engagement, a sort of a playful engagement with all of, a whole range of cinematic touchstones from, sort of generic elements like noir, or even a sort of paranoid thriller mood that you create, to sort of the more melodramatic elements of this narrative of this family coming together. And yet the film is doing something completely unique with these pieces, and in the way in which it brings them together, it is creating something new. Could you speak a little bit more about how you brought together these sort of influences or allusions how you transformed them?
Yeah, you use a word who is very important. It's playful in a playful way. Yeah, to play is a very serious thing, and this film is very playful. At the same time, it's serious, but at the same time, it's another thing. Also, it's not like super serious, talking about something super deep, but using these tools. So, yeah, I don't remember the question exactly, but
how do you go about that playfulness? How do you approach it in the artistic process?
Okay, yeah, because I can be talking, like, the process was so intense, and I use so many references, but as you said before, we decide to change the film into another, and we decide to cross some elements we know about cinema story. We know that if you use a gun in a film, and if you put in a voiceover like something like this is a story of violence, and if you use one type of music that sounds like Bernard Herrmann, you know that you are into a code. And at the same time, if you use another music, if you use some colors, if you use some words or silences, you can go from one to another, from one type of film to another. And for us, it was important to incorporate the possibility of going from one place to another, because the characters were changing also. They were traveling, and when you travel, you change. So why not to propose without fear to go from something more noir to something more musical? Because the San Sebastian part for me is very musical, not only because the work of Cora in the music school, also because it's a very choreographic, in a way, part. And why not change that and became at the end something similar to a melodrama, or the end who is again something more noir, again with the robbery. So yeah, it was very clear from the beginning. I think that it's my way of working, this playful way of mixing things without fear, having like, thinking that because I don't have all the answers of the film, and I'm more a person who questions things. But you have something related to your intuitions that gives you the chance or the courage to make, okay, let's put this and this together, and sometimes there can happen something in a dialectic way. You know? It's like sometimes it's very clear, sometimes not. But for me, it's important to hear these intuitions and to bring them to the script or to the decisions on the set. And at the end, this idea of playful thing is super clear, always there. And for example, that sequence where they change the color hair, which very Hitchcock, totally. I remember me thinking at the beginning of the process, thinking, I'm going to propose to these super big actresses from the Spanish history, two very big names, I'm going to propose this color, hair color change. Because the idea of being with them, with the characters, and propose this change, this so connected to the cinema history and to Vertigo, for example. To Hitchcock. For me, it's very Hitchcock, this. So, and I propose them, and one of them accept, and the other don't accept. So we decide to use, I don't know how can I say in English yeah. So, but it was perfect because it's also part of the cinema history, that element. But with this decision, with this gesture of changing the color of your hair, yeah, we are making this idea I'm trying to share with you of going from one place to another, being another person, being at the same time more than one person, because I think that we are complex, and this diversity I like a lot. So that image of changing the color was like a good resume of my way of working. So it seemed you change your color, maybe you seem another person, but at the end you are the same. So the film from the beginning to the end is talking about an encounter between a possible family, a family. And maybe you have the impression of maybe there are a lot of changes. Maybe sometimes you don't know where you are as a spectator, but also as a director. But at the end, it doesn't mind the color of the hair. The important is the person, what they talk about, their feelings.
I think we have time for one or two audience questions. If you have any, if you raise your hand. Oh, I see a hand right here. There's a mic coming.
Hi. First of all, I want to say that I'm a stenographer, so it was really nice to see us being representative. We are known as the best, as the greatest profession that nobody has ever heard of. So that was really nice to see us in the spotlight, finally. We hear everything, we see everything, but nobody sees us. How did you come up with putting us, the stenographer, as the main character?
The stenographer, the stenotypist.
Yes.
The stenotypist. Yes. Okay.
I'm also a stenographer, yes.
You work as a stenotypist? Yes. Ah, okay. Yeah, I love your work. Yeah. But the stenotypists from Spain, from Madrid, are very happy too, because nobody never portrayed your work. Never. Maybe in a film of Hitchcock, at the end of a trial there, but you are always there in silence. But yeah, so nice to meet you. Yeah, so I remember us, the writers, thinking about the professions of our characters, because at the beginning, in the first versions, we didn't know exactly. But talking with Manuel Egozkue, who is Egoz, the actor, talking with him, after I didn't cast Manuel, because I know him from the Madrid theatrical scene underground scene. He is quite young, but I know him from years because he was playing on a stage in a performance I like a lot. So, and he was working with some friends from the theatrical underground Madrid scene. And talking with Egoz, he told me that his mother was pianist. So, and his father is a very well-known guitar player from Argentina, who is the guitar player from the Fado. That's Egoz, Manuel Egozkue's real father. And talking with Egoz about his family and his musical background, appears the figure of that mother, the pianist. The real mother of Egoz is a pianist, so I was with her talking. So for me, at that point, was very clear that the profession of Cora will be piano teacher, as the real mother of Manuel Egozkue. Sometimes the processes are like that, like this, no? You incorporate things from the reality of the real characters to the script, and after you continue like your work of deconstructing and constructing again. So thinking about the profession of, the possible profession of Vera, for me was very clear to, or I started thinking about other professions where hands are very important. And of course, maybe a cirujano, a person who works in a doctor, like making some cuts very precise. There are a lot of professions, but stenotipist, it's a very concrete profession where the hands are also, for me, very related to something musical and to something very choreographic. And there is like a secret code in your work. Only you know how to write and how to read. It's very curious. So when I discovered that, and in Spain, we saw you, or your profession, every day during the government, in the parliament, because they are there. And sometimes there are, you can find in the newspaper or in the TV, like a reportage talking about your profession. I remember years ago discovering your profession. So when I was thinking about this other profession, I remember you, and it was like, wow, this idea of the code, of the something secret, of working with some material, because if you work for trials, or you hear very, you are there hearing sometimes difficult stories, or the persons who are working in Spain, in the Congress, they are there every day hearing our story, and they are writing our story. So at that point, for me, it was like, okay, let's do it like this. Vera is going to be an stenotipist, and their hands are going to be like a tool of expression, and the other mother is going to be pianist. So that's why also, because that's why the hands are also so important. And Egoz is like a mixture of these two things, no? It's like the piano, the background, but for example, Vera is a stenotipist, but is giving to Egoz in one of the sequences these the names of some flowers and trees. So she's trying to give Egoz something like herencia. I don't know how to say this in English, but he's trying to, because it's difficult to teach to Egoz to type stenotipist. But yeah, that's why I use this. But it's super specific, your work, and I like a lot how you do it. And in Madrid, in the premiere, all the stenotypists from the Congress were there, super happy. And Lola Dueñas, the actress, she's very methodic, and she was, she was one of the stenotypists from the Congress was teaching her, and she tries a lot, and she learned a bit, but yeah.
Well, I'm so thrilled that we had a practitioner in the audience. I think that was an excellent question. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have, but thank you all so much for being here, and thank you, Victor, for everything.